Hi again. We're going to start part 8 now. This will be having a bit more practice at working with blocks. Let's have a quick look at our folders, see how the files are building up. So in CAD Recover, you see that we've got an SV dollar file. That's the one that would be usable, that would be recoverable if there was an instant crash, if my machine switched off the power cut, for instance. Okay, the undo file actually got some meat in it now. We've got 338 kilobytes sitting there. A temporary file as well, and there's a backup of the actual SV dollar file. So AutoCAD's creating all sorts of files here along the way, but usually these get tidied up. If we close the software, most of these disappear. And in the course folder, see things are similarly getting a bit bigger. We created these blocks earlier and changed 2 of them, so they each got a backup file as well. And what we should do is just save the drawing just to make sure things are up to date. So I'll click on save, and when I do that, you'll see that the SV dollar file and its temporary file that went with it, its backup file, they go. It's left one behind though. Okay, and in the course folder we've got a disparity here between the DWG and the BAK. Now that's because we've purged level 6 plan. Okay, the drawing's quite a bit smaller, so really we should save again to make the backup and the DWG the same size. Let's just do that. Click on save again. Let's just check that what's happened there, and DWG and backup is nearly the same. Let's try save again. They should end up being the same. There we go. Both of them are 152 kilobytes now. It's a strange beast, this bit of software. And because we've been editing CTB files as well, notice this wizard, this shortcut has appeared in the folder too. Lots and lots of stuff getting created. Okay, now we're going to create a small electrics legend to add some symbols to this room. Some plug sockets, light switches, light fittings, and a smoke detector. Now I've got a drawing already half started for you. So if we go to open and open mini electrics legend. Okay, now you could drop this drawing in as it is, but it wouldn't have these as blocks. These would just be, basic lines. They don't have any sense. What we need to do in this drawing is turn these items into blocks with these names and using the end of that pale blue line as its insertion point. So a socket, for instance, needs to be placed against a wall. So the insertion point is on the flat side of that dome. A light switch, however, a lamp fixture, however, this usually gets placed in strategic places on the ceiling, sometimes in the middle of a ceiling tile or in positions to avoid steel work above, etc. So that has an insertion point that would be in the middle of the block. Okay, so that's the first job, is to create the blocks. Layer Electrics is the current one, so that's fine because that's going to come with it. So we make each block in turn. So it's B return. We give it a name, and the names are in the yellow. So let's start with LF for light fitting. Pick point, specify the insertion point, which is the end of the blue line. Okay, what you can do is put your cursor on the blue line and then tap the tab key till it finds the end point for you. Then select it. Select objects, so it's just the crosshairs, not the blue line as well, or the piece of text. Just the shape, the symbol. Press return. We'll convert it to a block here, that's very important. And OK. So that one's created. Move on to the next one, which is called LS2. So B return. We're calling it LS2. Pick point. Remember how I did it? Placed it here and tap the tab key. select, now select the objects, just the switch and the number 2, and return. Preview looks correct, everything else is the same, click OK. Now it's the 13A2, so it's B, return, we're calling it 13A2, being consistent with capitals and things, it makes it a bit tidier. Select the pick point, cursor here, tap tab, got the end point. Select objects, okay, press return. Preview looks okay, click OK. And the final one to make is going to be called SD, so it's B, return, we're calling it SD, pick point, tap your tab key, select objects, return, preview looks good, OK. Right, let's just test that we've got the blocks in this drawing. So you go to Insert, Insert, and we should have 4 names, 13A2, LF, LS2 and SD. Let's put them in alphabetical order. Just cancel, they're here already, each one of these is a block already. When you click on it, it shows up as a united object. Right, what we need to do now is just get rid of these lines, because we don't want them coming into our other drawing, and it's optional whether you got rid of these. They could be, because they're on a separate layer, which is called block names, then could be left in, but probably you wouldn't. So we take that away as well. So that's how the Electrics legend gets left. So rather than wreck my base drawing, I'm going to do a save as. So drop the list down, save as, and I'm going to call it Mini Electrics Legend and add the word finished at the end. Oops, just get my capitals sorted out. Okay, and save. That's now ready to bring in to the main drawing. Now these items here are sized so that they will be the right size in model space. Now I'll show you what that's based on. So I'll close this drawing. Okay, and we go to paper space first, because that's where the legend would sit. We'll use the symbols in model space in here, but the legends will be in the layout. So I'll go to A3 PDF and we're going to sit the legend in this top corner. Now the legend wants to come in reasonably small. We're going to bring it in at 1/20th of its size. Okay, so if we go to Insert, Insert, we want to browse because the legend sits outside this drawing. Mini Electrics Legend finished. Click Open. Now to bring it in at 1/20th of its size, what I do is I can just change this number. So if I put 0.05, that should come in 1/20th of its size. I've got a tick in uniform scale, so X and Y both adjust accordingly. Click OK, and there's the legend. Okay, so if I wanted it any smaller, I could bring it in at a smaller factor, say 0.04, 0.025, or I can use the scale command to adjust the height of the legend now it's in. So I pick a base point for the legend. Okay. Now I don't want to explode that because I could redefine the legend outside and bring it in. So if I had other objects to add to the legend, then exploding it would kind of mess that up. It'd be better to be left as a legend. But bringing the legend in brings in the 4 nested blocks. So these are now in this drawing as well. So if I go to Insert, you'll see that we've got our SD, LS2, LF and 13A2 available to use, and we'll use those in model space. Okay, so we leave paper space alone just now, go back to model space, and then we can put some blocks onto the drawing. So let's start off with a plug sockets. I think we'll turn off the areas layer just now because it's getting in the way. So I'll find the areas layer and turn it off using its light bulb. Okay, click in the black there, and then we insert. Now, actually, it'd be better to have these coming in on the electrics layer. So let's just change layer before we do bring any in. So go to the electrics layer, because that came in with the legend. So the layer was built into it. So insert. I want the plug socket, which is the 13A2. Click OK. And I'll have one just alongside the doorway there. Okay, didn't give me any option to rotate it. I think I'll need that next time. So let's place another double socket over here under the window. So put the tick in rotation now, and OK. Okay, we'll place it here, but we'll rotate it by selecting the midpoint of the line, and that drags it round by 90 degrees. Okay, then let's put one in this corner of the room on the sloping wall. So you press return to bring back the insert command. OK, because it's the same block we want to use. Let's place it here, and I'm looking for perpendicular or end point or midpoint or end point. Any of these will set the rotation for me. So a midpoint would be probably a very safe one to use, and the block is neatly aligned with the wall. Okay, that's the tricky ones actually, the sockets. Let's put in some light fittings next. So you press return to bring back the insert command, change to LF, and OK. Okay, let's place one roughly in the middle of the room here. I don't need to rotate this, so just press return. Return again to bring back the command. OK, and I'll place one roughly in the middle of that space. And return. Now there'd be a light switch that controls these. So press return, change to LS2, because it's got two switches on it. And let's place the light switch just next to the door, which is where you would find it. And I don't need any rotation there, so press return again. And the final symbol to add in this room, let's say there's a smoke detector which is attached to the column at high level. So return again to bring back the insert command, drop the arrow down. I've got my SD, my smoke detector, and OK. And I'll just place this by eye, just there. No rotation needed, so press return again. Okay, that's fairly tidy. What we would have though here is some lines joining the light switches to the light fittings. Okay, and we can draw these with curvy polylines. So we'll use the polyline command, PL, return, and we'll start in the insertion point of the lamp and go, whoa, that line's looking a bit thick. The width setting is still at 60. The last time we drew a polyline, it had a width setting of 60. It was the areas perimeter. So you type W and return, 0, return, and return again, because you want the end of the line to be no width as well. Okay, so that's just dealt with the width. Now how do we get these curvy? Now the trick to this is to specify firstly that you want an arc. Okay, well that gives you a bit of an awkward kind of springing for the arc. We now say second point. Okay, so I'm going to pick a point over here so that the arc has to pass through that point. You see that it's locked around about here. It's got to go through that point. Okay, now zooming out, I'm going to basically just add some more segments to my curve. Okay, and then come into the light switch at its insertion point and return. So just a wavy line coming round. AutoCAD draws very nice curves in that method, and much easier to play with than these Bezier curves that you find in a lot of other software. Okay, we need another polyline, so press return, start it in the middle of the block at its insertion point, and try the same thing again. So it's arc through a second point. Let's go this way. Okay, and I think I'll just come in alongside that one and return. So the two curves are kind of springing from that socket, from that light switch. Now those line types should really ideally be a different type. So let's change just those lines from being continuous lines. We go back to the properties tab here, and what could we use? Maybe let's load a different one. So let's bring in another line type to use. Okay, so I want to load a new line type from AutoCAD ISO.lin. We haven't used Phantom, so let's use that. Okay, now pick Phantom because that's the line type I want to use. Okay. Now this is maybe manifesting the same problem we had with line type generation for the perimeter. So let's just see if that's the case. So it was pedit, so it's PE, return. Pick the line. I want line type generation on, so it's L now and on. Doesn't seem to be showing up yet. It's actually, I don't know if it has changed that line at all. So let's just check that. Oh, it's still showing continuous. So no wonder it wasn't showing up anything. So let's fix Phantom now. Oh, that's better. We seem to have a line that's behaving itself. Now instead of going through that process again on this one, I can match what this line looks like to that one. And that would also include the line type generation. So use the Match Properties tool, which shortens to MA and return. This is the object I want to mimic, so I pick that first and then apply what that one looks like to this one. Dead easy. Press return to finish. Okay, that's starting to get busy. Now remember, we've got a layer switched off. So let's bring back on the areas layer. Right, and let's have a look at the A3 PDF, because things are going to look a bit busy. Let's put our line type scale back to what we had, so it's LTS return 0.25 return. Okay, in this viewport where I've got my symbols, where I want to see my symbols, the thick red line around the perimeter is kind of hiding things. It's messing up my symbols. Down here, the symbols are too small to read. I wouldn't know what they are. So we need actually to control what gets seen in each viewport, and we can do this through the layers drop-down list. Now when we're in model space, we see a lock icon here. When we're in paper space, we get an extra one. Okay, and this is the magic button. So let's go into this viewport. Double click inside the viewport, and let's say I don't want to see the areas shape in this viewport. So I drop the list down and I freeze the areas layer in this viewport only. That makes things clearer. Double click outside, and let's go to this viewport and say that in this one we don't want to see the electrics. Okay, so double click inside the viewport, and in this viewport only, freeze the electrics layer. So it's not a global freeze, that's what this one is, the sunshine. This is freezing it only in this viewport. Okay, the furniture is a bit too small to see what's going on there. Let's freeze that as well. You see how useful that is? So you can customize each viewport to show different information depending on the scale, clarity, or whatever you're trying to say with your drawing. Very, very useful. Okay, that brings us to the end of a natural subject area, so we'll stop there.